Hi, I'm N7 Strider and welcome to my X-Men Days of Future Past review. Now, I'm going to have to eat my words a little with this review because on the lead up to this movie coming out, I was very vocal about some things I didn't like about it, such as Quicksilver's design. I still hate Quicksilver's design in this movie. He looks like he's been dipped in silver paint. I still hate it. I did think with the major plot point of this movie that Wolverine was going to be the star again. I don't really like Wolverine and I thought he was going to be the main focus point of this movie. He's not. He gets equal billing as the rest of the cast. Maybe a little bit more because he is our guide through the story. So maybe he's in it a little bit more, but he's not Wolverine saves the day in every scene, which I really enjoyed. So I'm going to just go over the basic plot of what you need to know before you put your butt in a cinema seat, and you can watch the movie spoiler free. So in the future there are killer death machines called Sentinels who are hunting mutants to extinction. They're also killing mutant sympathizers who are human. Any mutant who gives themselves up is herded into a death camp where they are promptly exterminated. As such, there are very, very few mutants left. There are a small group who are leading, trying to, well, they're not resisting, they're more trying to survive. And they come up with the plan that Wolverine's mind is capable of surviving the trip back to 1970 to stop the assassination of Bolivar Trask, who designed the Sentinels. Bolivar Trask is assassinated by Mystique, and with this the Sentinel project is given the go-ahead. So Wolverine is sent back in time to unite Professor X and Magneto to stop Mystique from assassinating Bolivar Trask. So this is the 7th movie in the X-Men franchise. So where does it sit with its timeline? Okay, are you ready? So X-Men Days of Future Past is set after the 3rd X-Men movie, but it's also a sequel to the prequel and a prequel to the first X-Men movie. Keep up. So that's where it's set within the franchise, and you can pick that up very quickly as you go into your local cinema. It's not like it's that overly complicated to understand. If you want it one more time, this is set after the 3rd movie, but it's a sequel to the prequel and a prequel to the first X-Men movie. There we go. Nice and slow, did it for you. I've got that down now. It's not difficult to understand. It's sometimes when time travel is involved in movies, you can mess with your own timeline. And there are some plot points here that were threatening to destroy the timeline completely, but were explained in a nice way. And there's also one big plot point, such as Professor X being alive in the future when he died in the 3rd movie. Maybe it's an alternate future, but he seems to serve his purpose in the future, but that's a plot point that I can't discuss. So what's the overall acting like? Well, Patrick Stewart and Ian McKellen are fantastic as their respective parts. They haven't really dropped the ball in any of the X-Men movies that they've been in. A particular favourite of mine is Ian McKellen, the way he just speaks with command and authority, and his presence alone on screen is just a joy to behold. He really does embody and get what Magneto is and who he is. So he's always great to watch. Patrick Stewart is no slouch, of course, but I just prefer Ian McKellen in this movie. Although Patrick Stewart does have a couple of fantastic moments as well. Hugh Jackman pretty much owns Wolverine now, with this being his 7th movie. 6th technically if you don't count the cameo in First Class. 6th movie portraying Wolverine, and now he just embodies Wolverine. Wolverine isn't one of my favourite characters, and I do think that he's been overused in the franchise. I would like to see more from the other X-Men. So it is a bit of a shame that he's been used way too much, and I'd love to see more from Cyclops and the other mutants. Like Jubilee, she had a small cameo in one of the films. I think it was the second one, and then was completely cut out. So I'd love to see Jubilee. Maybe even use more from the animated series, if you guys remember that guy. He was specifically for the animated series, but he was never in any of the comics, and I enjoyed that guy, to be honest. It was a little bit annoying, but his story arc was interesting. So yeah, I'd like to see more of the other mutants, and this film doesn't really push Wolverine to the front and have Wolverine saving the day. In fact, he's just on par with everyone else. We do follow him through the story, so he's on screen for that little bit longer than the others, but he's not always throwing himself in, always Wolverine save the day. He's not thrown in your face in this movie that way. He's literally there just to unite Professor X and James McAvoy. Professor X and James McAvoy, that's who plays Professor X. Professor X and Magneto in the past, who are played by James McAvoy and Michael Fassbender, and both do a fantastic job. James McAvoy is like a broken Professor X. He no longer wants to pursue uniting mutants and working side by side with humanity, and Magneto by Michael Fassbender is phenomenal. I really enjoy his portrayal of a younger Magneto. He's just you can never disagree with him. It's in some of the movies his motivation is questionable, but in this one you don't disagree with him. You kind of sympathise and understand where he's coming from, that he's not exactly evil. He's just the way he's trying to obtain his end goal is just questionable. It's not, it's complicated when you're dealing with mutants' rights. It's all about discrimination at the end of the day, although don't be expecting this movie to be talking about discrimination that awful much. This is summer blockbuster territory we're entering here. Also, I've got to mention Peter Dinklage as Bolivar Trask is fantastic in this movie. I was a little worried about going from the small screen, the little screen, where he's phenomenal as, is it Tyrion? I get confused. There's a big cast in Game of Thrones. I think he plays Tyrion in Game of Thrones. But yeah, I was a little worried about his transition to the big screen, but he really sells Bolivar Trask. There's just the problem of the script isn't as strong, and Bolivar Trask's motivation doesn't really come through all that clearly. So that isn't a fault of Peter Dinklage. That is a fault of the script. His motivation is a little murky. You wonder why he builds these giant death robots. If at one point he says, I don't hate mutants, in fact I quite admire them, then you seem to be a smart guy. Surely working with them instead of killing them would be preferable. So make of that what you will. As I was saying, this is summer blockbuster territory, and as such the storytelling is kept to a minimum, and it does seem to rattle along from set piece to set piece, but these set pieces are rather enjoyable. Such as the one that opens in the first 5 minutes, where some of the special effects are amazing. I'm not going to spoil it for you because it is akin to like when we saw Nightcrawler at the opening of X2. But I will say, watch the powers of a mutant called Blink. I don't want to spoil it for you because that set piece is really quite nice. So yeah, I think the special effects are phenomenal in this. I've got to say, they're up there. They're not gonna make you draw up and say this is a new standard for CGI. They're just as good as most of the movies that come out now that feature CGI. In fact, I'm getting a little sick of CGI in films. and I'm going to be so happy when Guardians of the Galaxy comes along, where they use as little CGI as possible and go with practical effects, which is why Karen Gillan shaved her hair off for the role, because she was playing Nebula, the woman who has no hair, so she actually literally shaved her hair off. They're going very heavy with practical effects where they can use practical effects, and CGI where they can't go practical. So that's just my own personal opinion. I'm getting a little tired of CGI, and yeah, the CGI in this is impressive. I'm not going to, because I'm getting tired of CGI, say, you know, that I hate the CGI in this film, because it is really impressive. The set design also, because this is set mostly in the 70s, is fantastic. You really feel the time frame in this. It carries across everything. Set design, there's like references to things that are on TV, such as Star Trek. There's a Pong arcade cabinet in there. There's music. You really do get the feel that this is set in the 70s. There's nothing that really stands out and says this isn't the 70s, although I'm sure there's something in there that the production team have overlooked. So what do I think of this? Just finally, should you go and see this? This is by no means a great movie. It's good. If you've been sitting through the X-Men movies, you will get more from this. If you've sat through the first 6 movies and you've been invested in the X-Men universe, you're definitely going to enjoy this movie. You'll be invested at this point. And for you guys who'll be going to the cinema and sitting through your 7th X-Men movie, there is a little payoff for you towards the end that I won't spoil here. It's just, you will spot little things, such as, I can't talk about that, but you will spot little things that reference to the other movies, and you're going to be the ones who get the most out of this movie. If you treat it as just an average movie, and if you've not seen the previous X-Men films, are you going to enjoy it? If you leave your brain at the door and just go with like an action romp, yeah, you'll probably enjoy this movie. There may be some things that are a little unclear to you, and if you're not really a comic book fan, you're going to be lost completely. If you've seen the previous movies, then you're going to be able to follow it. You don't need to read the comics to understand this. So yeah, this movie is good. It's perfectly enjoyable, just as a summer blockbuster. Grab your popcorn, grab your drink, and just have fun. It's not anything too taxing on the brain. You're just gonna have fun, text some friends, whatever. You'll just enjoy this movie. It's just a bit of fluff, a summer blockbuster, with all the pomp and the special effects that go with it. Although I will say, if you're going to watch this movie, and if you sit down in front of me and you have an afro so big that you could tie that back, and if you're going to order the most noisiest snack in a cinema, that nachos, and you're going to sit in front of me, and if you're going to be constantly tweeting throughout the movie, giving your friend a point by point explanation of what's going on with the plot, and that light is like a beacon to me because you're sat in front of me. When I come to you outside and ask you for 50%, which is not being unreasonable, of my ticket money back, do not be offended, because with your big hair, munching of the noisiest snack possible, and constant tweeting throughout the movie, you were ruining my experience. If you then insult me by saying various things, if I then threaten you with physical violence, you know what I'm saying? Just watch movies responsibly, people. Don't be getting the noisy ass snack. Nachos! Why do they sell nachos in a movie cinema? They're crunchy! And he was constantly on his phone, which was like a beacon. He was literally sat right in front of him, and he was on his phone tweeting, which was like a beacon, this light shining in the darkened theatre, and he had an afro. Some people should just like, if I run a movie cinema, if I saw guys like that coming in, just like, if they come to me, it's like, oh yeah, I want a ticket to go and see X-Men 20. I'd be like, yeah, okay, one ticket for X-Men 20, and would you be having any snacks? If they said nachos, I'd pull my gun out and fucking shoot them and just next. Because that sort of person needs to be exterminated from the planet. That's my personal prejudice. Arseholes in movie cinemas. Also, don't be talking through the entire movie. If you didn't understand something, shut the fuck up until the movie's over and then ask someone to explain it when you're outside. That was someone behind me. So there were some things I didn't enjoy the movie, but they were generally from the audience. As always, I've been Ensign Strider, and I should go.